Welcome back to Under Oath. Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we're talking to actor, director, writer, and producer Jim Cummings. Jim, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I know you have a movie coming out. I saw the trailer for it, and I'm just trying to figure out how I see it in theaters, where I'm going to see it. I believe it's called The Last Stop in Yuma.
Last stop in Yuma County. And yes, you can see it in theaters tomorrow is the first day it comes out. You might be able to catch a late night screening tonight in different theaters around the country. And then it'll be out on digital, I think tonight at midnight, I've been told. If you pre-order it, it will send you an email saying, hey, the movie's now watchable and you can watch it however you like. It's been a long time coming, all for just to be able to be out in the world by midnight tonight.
Yeah, a lot of people don't get how this works out, that when you wrap a movie, sometimes you wait a year, 2 years before it even comes out. When did you wrap this movie?
We wrapped in October of 2022, so more than a year and a half ago, and it's taken a long time to edit. And then it's also been on the festival circuit. So the movie was done, and then we submitted it to festivals all over the world, and it went to Fantastic Fest, it went to Sitges, the largest genre festival in the world in Spain. And so it has to spend a bit of a window doing this tour around the world to show it off to different giant cinema outlets. And then you sell the film, and then it takes a couple of months to get it out into theaters. It takes a while. It's not like YouTube, where as soon as you finish it, you get to put it out into the public. But I think movies are getting smaller windows. I think our next few things will probably be quicker once they're done.
It's painful. You produce this thing, you love it, and you're going, will anybody get a chance to see it, and how will they see it? I mean, when you go around to all these festivals, are you just sitting there going, please love me?
It's that. I mean, constantly. I'm constantly looking for affirmation. I'm still a young boy in my mind, trying to impress the girls in high school. But the most stressful time is you act in a scene, and then the director goes away with it to edit it for several months, and you have no idea over the next several months as to whether he's going to pick the right shot of you that makes you look cool, or and then it's the first time you watch it is a friends and family screening. Sometimes at a festival premiere is the first time you get to see the film and find out if it's any good. So you get to spend that time wringing your hands, being very nervous, as if you're going to get made fun of on the internet or not. And that's the most stressful thing. But then we're very lucky in this case that the movie is very, very good, and everybody is excellent in it. And the film's been very well reviewed. It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Now, people don't get, what the editors do. They don't get that you could act in the whole movie and you might not even be in it. I mean, how tough is it when you finally see the movie, you're going to go, what happened to that great monologue I gave?
There's a horrifying story of Adrian Brody's. He was the lead actor in the Thin Red Line, the Terrence Malick film. And Terry is very private in the editing room. But Adrian Brody was a small actor at the time. But he got on the cover of Rolling Stone that he was going to be this big actor in the movie. And then in the editing room, Terrence edited the film so that Jim Caviezel was the main actor. And I think Adrian Brody's in the film for about 6 minutes. And he brought his mother to the Cannes Film Festival to sit there and watch a film that he basically was not in. And he was like, I am never going to work with that director ever again. You never know. An edit can change an entire film. It's very easy to mess up a movie with any of these small decisions. We are very lucky that every one of the decisions that went into this movie was a good one.
Now, you had mentioned these festivals and everything else like that. I know you had done very well at Sundance. And normally when somebody does well at the Sundance Film Festival, you see all these movies and TV shows, how they're suddenly being courted. They're the belle of the ball. Everything's going great. You won pretty well there. And, after that, are you thinking, okay, all the doors are going to open up. I'm in business.
So the backstory is I made a film called Thunder Road. It was a short film that won the Grand Jury Prize. There's a long tradition of films that win the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance and then get turned into features. Whiplash was one of them. Napoleon Dynamite was one of them. It's kind of an age-old tradition of going from short to feature. And nobody came knocking. We ended up having to do a Kickstarter campaign to do our feature. Our feature is very good. It won the Grand Jury Prize at South by Southwest of Thunder Road, and then played in Cannes and all over the world. But no, the night that we won Sundance, dude, we were in the VIP section. We felt like we'd made it. And I was talking to a guy there, and he goes, "Oh, this is great! Congratulations! I was talking to a couple other Sundance winners who were in the back with me." And I said, "Oh, that's great! What are they doing now?" And the guy looked me in the face and said, "Not much. Yeah, not too much." And in the night that we won, I realized that if I wasn't the one being the champion of my own career, that it's very possible that nobody cares. You have to be the one who is leading the way, and you can never expect Hollywood to come in and tell your story. You have to be the one doing it. And so I was very lucky to have heard that story the night that we won.
Now I saw the trailer for Last Stop in Yuma County, and it has this great feel for it. It's a combination, I guess it feels like it has a western feel for it. It feels like you're in the middle of the desert. There's a bank robbery. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so it does have this kind of throwback feel. It was shot on vintage lenses. It feels a bit Tarantino. It feels a bit Coen Brothers. It's very funny. I know that's a strange thing to say about a thriller with shootouts and graphic violence and stuff, but it's an incredibly fun watch. I play a traveling knife salesman who goes to get gasoline at this desert gas station, but there's no gas there. The gas truck hasn't arrived to refuel. So the guy says, "Oh, just go wait in the diner." And I wait in the diner, and then these bank robbers show up, and they need gasoline far more than I do. And so they hold me and the waitress hostage, and they say, "If anybody comes in here, act normal." And it's very funny because, like, what do you do if you have a gun pointed at you and somebody says act normal? You act very uncomfortable and normal. And so it's a bit of comedy of politeness with a lot of high stress. And then everybody shows up at the diner, and then the guns come out. And it turns out everybody has guns but me. And we do this giant fun shootout, and it gets very tense. But it becomes this very kind of simple Hitchcockian bag of money in the desert movie of who gets away scot free. It's very good. I'm underselling it, but it's a very fun and beautiful movie with a bunch of great actors that you'll recognize.
What was funny is I noticed one of the actors, Richard Brake, and I was like going, God, I always love him when he shows up. What is it like to deal with? I mean, he's an English actor, but I mean, you know, was it a surprise? I mean, when you meet an actor and you go, okay, what kind of passion do they bring forward? What kind of method are they using? How much fun was it working with him?
Richard is one of the best actors I know because he plays such a frightening and intimidating person, all of his characters. And then he's actually the nicest guy in the world. I know that's like a common thing for bad guys in Hollywood, but he really is a good friend and a really lovely person. So when he showed up, you're obviously intimidated. This is a guy you've seen in Game of Thrones and Batman Begins and a million other movies where he plays really spooky characters. And then he had seen my movie Thunder Road and had nothing but glowing things to say about it. He really loved it and really took to it. And he had so many questions for me, just like I had for him. And so it was a very quick bonding thing. We ended up talking about documentaries that we loved for the whole month. It was just the two of us geeking out about Adam Curtis documentaries and why we loved them. And all of our famous British actor, people that we inspired us, Alan Partridge, Steve Coogan, Ricky Gervais, and it was nice. It felt like a proper theatrical summer camp hanging out with Richard.
When you're talking about these movies, and I've read some interviews and I've watched your interviews about how you talk about the money and how tough is it to get. And when you talk about I had to kickstart a movie, I mean, I write comic books, so we actually kickstarted a couple of our books, and going out there begging for money. It is so it's weird because you have to basically park your dignity at the door and become this traveling salesman for like 30 days, begging people for $10, $20, $30, and that just seems so far away from what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. So I've gotten so used to it. Anytime you run a startup, anytime you're an entrepreneur, the majority of your job is asking people for money, usually rich people. With Kickstarter, there's this bit of shame that we feel as Americans. And Europeans feel it worse than we do. Europeans have arts funds, and if you don't get the lottery for the arts funds, the movie just doesn't happen. It's not like you can go to Kickstarter. People are terrified of asking, they're so ashamed of asking friends and family for money. But when I did the Thunder Road feature, we ran a Kickstarter campaign, raised $36,000 from the public. But at that point, I'd already run 4 or 5 Kickstarter campaigns where I was the face of it for my friends who were trying to direct something, and they needed somebody who was articulate to come in and help them raise the money. So when we raised the money for my last feature, the beta test, we ran a WeFunder campaign, which is a crowd equity platform. So you can sell shares of your movie to the public, and we raised $350,000 in 12 days
Wow.
just from hitting a different investor pool. Isn't that wild? It really is this wild west where people who are creators can raise the money on their own, make the movie on their own that they want to make, and then release it on their own if they want to. It's never been so fluid in filmmaking. We are very, very lucky to be here while we are.
It seems so remarkable to me, the idea of being able to make a movie under a certain amount of money. I mean, you've been the executive producer, the assistant producer, and the regular producer on so many productions. I mean, I assume some of that's money, some of that's, putting everything together. I mean, a lot of people, when they see all these producers, they have no clue what the hell these people do. And, I guess the best thing for you to do is maybe give the audience an opportunity to understand that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, yeah, just some insider info. Most of the producers couldn't tell you what the hell they do either. So that term is thrown around very loosely in Hollywood. But people really want to be called a producer, not because they like the ego trip of being a producer of movies. They really like the money that comes into the producer's fund once the film sells or something like that. So that movie, or that term, you have to separate of someone who is a noun of a producer, somebody who just doesn't do anything, and a verb producer, which is actually somebody that does the hard work and actually produces the movie. It's a bit of an epidemic in Hollywood right now, and I like to make fun of it because I've been a verb of a producer for 15 years now, and I only work with verb producers. But yeah, sometimes somebody comes on and they're a producer of the film because they also happen to know the movie star that you connected them with to be able to make the film possible. So like that term is thrown around very loosely, and we like to keep our teams as small as possible. And because I was a producer first, I try my absolute damnedest to make sure that we don't water down that title. That if somebody is called a producer in our film, they actually are a producer.
That's the amazing thing because when I was looking at all your credits, I was looking at what you did, and I was listening to this interview about how you were writing the script. Now, as a producer, you're aware of the money, and I'm sure that has to affect the writing, where you're going, okay, I can't do this if I'm going to put this forward because I have to sell this as $1 million movie or a $3 million movie. I mean, how do you think that really affects the creative process in Hollywood now?
Oh, yeah, it's everything. I mean, Hollywood is in free fall. It's collapsing. It's always collapsing, but it really is now, where the giant tech companies are no longer trying to compete with each other to, make more movies than the other to win the eyeballs of the audience. So I feel like movies aren't selling. It's the worst marketplace for films in history since the '90s, I'm told by experts. And I feel like everybody's realizing that it's just a war of attention. That if you can win an audience by making something that is unsanitized or is actually a good film, that's rare enough these days to be able to get people to come to a movie theater and see it. And you can do that independently. You don't need a giant backing. You don't need, big movie stars. People, they always say you don't need subtitles for an explosion. A movie can travel all over the world if it's an action-packed genre film like ours. So I feel very lucky. I feel like we've come up in a time where these, cheesy corporate movies are getting made, and we're able to eat their lunch just because of the kinds of films that we're making that are obviously better. So I don't know. It's a strange time, but it's becoming a lot more like YouTube, where the cream rises to the top, and it doesn't matter who's in the thing. It's just siloed entertainment and no longer legacy corporate entertainment.
About once a month, we take about 700 people to movies. I mean, it's a lot of fun for us to be able to do. And we shoot a trailer, well, like our own trailer based on the movie before we go in there. And I can't tell you because of the technology and everything that exists right now. I mean, our special effects on Ghostbusters was probably as good as theirs. I mean, is it amazing how much the quality of technology and software that's now accessible to people who aren't, these multi-million dollar companies?
Yeah, and it's only going to be exponentially more accessible. So if you look at something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, that film had a visual effects team of 5 people. Three of them I went to college with. And so it's just proof that like the vast majority of the other movies that they're in competition with for Best Picture have 100 visual effects artists. It's just becoming more accessible because the technology is getting more democratized. And with AI, like it's possible that people in the middle of nowhere will be able to make something that looks and sounds just as good as a Marvel movie in the next 5 years, but it's crass or it's actually funny or actually well crafted. Like I think I think that the big guys are going to be in direct competition with people who are talented YouTubers, and that is unprecedented.
It's amazing how that works out. I mean, I was looking the other day and I was noticing that, the international market, Disney has agreed they're only going to make three Marvel movies and two television shows from probably they cut that slate in half. I mean, that's a lot of talent now out trying to make independence.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I was in that. I was a production assistant at Industrial Light and Magic working on Captain America 2, and I felt that burnout of working 6 days a week, 14-hour days sometimes, just trying to support these visual effects artists who are working their hands to the bones to meet a deadline for a giant corporation, and they end up getting buried in the credits of 500 visual effects artists from around the world, and it's a decent gig, but you're in a cave for 18 months in a dark room doing visual effects with a bunch of other artists. It's not this glorified Hollywood experience. So a lot of the, thoughtful and well-adjusted artists that I was working with there were doing stuff on their own. They were doing short films on the weekends. They were making animations over months at a time of their own to be able to, I don't know, have any kind of real I guess like pride in their work. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like now you can set aside a Saturday and make friends act in stuff or work on stuff with you, and you can literally get onto the world stage by stuff that you do on a weekend. And looking at all of my favorite heroes of Orson Welles and all of these other different filmmakers now is they would be thrilled that this is possible for young people.
We have a little less than 2 minutes left, and I guess I always like to ask somebody in your position. There are a lot of dreams and goals and things on bucket lists that you want to accomplish, and you've probably accomplished a lot of them. What is the one thing that you go, this would be my dream project?
It depends on what day you ask me. I have ADHD, so I'm always bouncing. My producer's always telling me I bounce too much between things. There's a really beautiful Victorian horror film comedy, buddy comedy romance that we wrote the other day. My buddy PJ and I finished it, and it's very beautiful and very big and important about electricity being installed in a Victorian home. And it's very poignant, and it's everything that I've always wanted to do and say, but it's too expensive to make. And so now I'm hoping that technology will come along and we'll be able to finally do the thing in the next few years. So I would say that film.
Well, that sounds like a great thing to shoot for. Why don't you tell us where we can see the movie and some of your social media? We have about 40 seconds left.
Yeah, sure. So The Last Stop in Yuma County comes out in theaters and on demand tonight at midnight. So go and see it or pre-order it and watch it if you can. It's really funny. I promise you that you will have a blast watching this film. And then I am on social media as Jimmy C. That's Me, which is a very stupid seventh grade email address that I have kept that moniker for far too long. So yeah, follow me if you can.
Yeah, mine's like this lame ass thing that just says the real Jeff Kaufman. So I like yours a little better. It was good talking to you, Jim.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.